Blessings! It is truly an honor to connect with you once again. I'm grateful to share space with you and literally be sharing this moment with you. So this topic is definitely something that's necessary, especially as so many people are awakening and becoming aware of what the ego is. Now, there are many different aspects of the ego, and there are many different conceptions of the ego. As we begin to awaken, we hear a lot about the ego and how it is this terrible thing that needs to be eradicated and destroyed. Kill the ego, remove the ego. That's actually ego speaking. The ego is an amazing tool, and there is not one aspect of ourselves that is bad. Truly everything has purpose. And there are many different types of ego, and they all play different roles. They all serve different purposes in your life. And throughout the phase of our current incarnation, the different aspects of the ego will fluctuate through our experiences and will come to play at the perfect divine timing when we need to extract understanding, medicine, and lessons from the ego. So the ego comes as like this harsher voice usually, and that's often why people are like, oh, the ego's evil, like the ego's so bad, is because it is coming with truth. And often the way that it comes with truth is in this more direct, sometimes slightly aggressive way, and if you choose not to listen to the ego, then that voice will reflect in different experiences in your life, often causing you to feel embarrassed or disappointed or shut down. So in understanding fully the purpose of the ego and why it is a part of us, literally it's a part of us, we can better navigate it. Because again, it's literally a tool for us. And once you know how to use a tool, you know how to use the tool. So there are many different ways in which the ego will manifest and take form in your life. Something specific about the ego is that it always is thinking of itself. It is not thinking of the feelings or the state of another being. It is solemnly for itself. So that's number one. And honestly, like, that's not a way that you ever want to be, because that is not in balance. That is not in harmony. We aren't just experiencing our one experience. There are literally collective thousands of experiences occurring in every single moment. Millions, actually billions at this point now. And even beyond this earth, beyond our little experience here, there are so many others. So truly, it's all a collective experience. So we shouldn't ever be just thinking like, it's just me. That's the ego. So the different types of ego, there are many different types of ego. The different types of ego that I've observed are most popular are, number one, the performer ego. The performer ego is the one that thinks it's the best and is like, get out of my way, like, I'm the absolute best, everyone listen to me, anything else anyone says is not valid, is not true. This is the ego that feels superior over other beings, the ego that wants to take power and wants to suppress other beings and other energies and eliminate them, because really it's just out of fear. It's really scared to not be in power. It fears being vulnerable. So it comes with this like aggressive force that's just like, get out of my way, like, I'm the best, everyone listen up. It's a really intense ego. It's a really intense ego. And again, because all aspects of ourself are necessary, there is a part of this ego that is necessary, and I'll get to that in just a second. Another type of ego is the preventative ego. And this is the ego that holds you back. This ego also comes from fear. It's the one that says you're not good enough, like, don't speak up, hold back, don't show this talent. Scares you from fully embodying and expressing your divine true nature. And again, this ego is derived out of fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of not being good enough. And again, this is coming from a space of just thinking about oneself, because truly, worst case scenario, like honestly, like you're most likely not going to be judged, and if you're embarrassed, then that's just like a reaction of your own. But if you are doing something that is, changing some perspectives and really stepping out of the comfort zone, then it is medicine for everyone. And it is a necessary experience for everyone. So truly, let that shit go. Another aspect of the ego that is especially popular during this transition, this shifting consciousness, so many people are waking up, is the spiritual ego. Now, this is honestly like a hilarious concept to me, because the spiritual ego feels entitled because it's enlightened. So it's like, oh, I'm superior to all other beings because I meditate. And it's like, really, bro? Because like, did you meditate today? Because like what you just said, like, wouldn't come from a meditation. Or like, what are you meditating on? Because that doesn't really resonate. This ego is especially dangerous because someone who is aware of this shift in consciousness and able to comprehend the little snippets, the little tools, basically like the language and the lingo of awakening, and then using that to become this like entitled guru, healer, starseed, whatever it is. I mean, those things are all amazing things, but if there is ego fueled behind it, and if it is the identification of the being, then that's actually like the opposite of the point of becoming enlightened. Becoming enlightened is actually to remove identification, because truly identifying with something just limits you and also separates and divides you from all other things, and we are not separate from all other things. So the spiritual guru or the magical healer or the cosmic channeler is in no way superior to the plumber or the stripper. Everyone is divine, and again, they're just different avenues of consciousness. That's really all it is. I don't even like to say levels, because people like to associate levels as higher being good, lower being bad, but no, they're all divine in their own right, and they're all necessary for everyone's growth. So my personal experience with the ego has been quite a journey for sure. The ego that has come up for me most, and since I was little, is the preventative ego. And that is the ego that wants to hold me back, where I often am like, ooh, I want to say this, or I want to get up and dance or do that or that. And there's an aspect of my ego that's like, no, don't do it, you're not good enough. Or no, don't speak. Or no, don't sing. Or no, don't join in. Just holding me back in fear of failure or doing something wrong. And like, really, doing something wrong or failure is an ego concept in itself, because there's no wrong way to be and there's no failure. It's literally a continuous journey. Like, there's not one achievement. We finally are like, okay, we're here. All right, now what? No, like, it's a continuous journey. So I've had to fully work through this ego. And I've actually had to channel the other ego of the performer. Now, performing for me is also natural, but when I am comfortable in doing what I'm doing. The performer ego doesn't come naturally to me if it's my first time doing something, or if I'm unfamiliar with something, or if someone else happens to be like an expert at something. That's when I observe that the preventative ego comes up, because it's like, whoa, like, he's really good at that, so like you probably should just stay back here. As opposed to being like, what's that cool? Like, this is how I do it. Like, that's how you do it, and this is how I do it. Like, it's all fucking magical. Like, all of it is magical. So I've actually had to channel the performer ego in many aspects. For me to be able to literally like set up my phone and be talking to a screen right now, I have to have some aspect of ego, just to be able to share with you knowledge, things that I've acquired and like just realized just by going through my experiences. Just simply because this is where I'm at on my journey doesn't mean I'm better or superior or more enlightened. Like, this is just what's happening in my life. For me to be able to express that to you, I have to channel an aspect of ego that's like, okay, yeah, girl, like, step up. Yeah, you got this. Come on, you got this. And so really, that's what the ego is. When the ego is in balance and in harmony with all aspects of ourself, that are all divine, then we actually can use it as a tool. We can use it to channel abilities and fully allow us to express our natural divine nature. Like, this is just us, like you expressing in your full divine form. That is magic. That is true magic. And the ego is also there to offer you reflections. So I love having like astral conversations with my ego, where it's like checking me, where I'm like, okay, cool, like this feels a little bit out of balance, or like if I ever feel any inkling of misalignment within myself, I'm like, ego, come through, I got a question for you. Like, reflect on this, please. What is this? What am I feeling? Is this actually in alignment? Is this actually coming from the heart space? Is this in integrity with my soul? And that's really how you can decipher whether you are acting from the ego out of balance, or if you are acting from higher self, from true soul sovereignty. Is literally just ask yourself and feel into it. Is this coming from the heart space? Is this in benefit to all involved and all beings in general? Is it true? Is this my true essence being expressed, or feeling this way, or desiring this to happen or occur? And if it's not, there you go. Often, if we are acting out of balance from the ego, actually not often, it's actually always, if you are acting from the ego out of balance, then you're gonna be checked. You're gonna be checked. And that's why we take time to separate ourselves, like separate the aspects of ourselves. Yes, that is a healthy thing. And fully ask, where is this coming from? What is it that I'm feeling? Because in doing that, we're removing the job of the ego to come and like smack things in our face, to bluntly be like, boom, there's something embarrassing, now have a realization about it. If you take time to fully be like, okay, what is it? What's coming through? Why? Asking yourself why, then you allow room for the understandings to come through, so you don't have to experience them in like harsh, disturbing, surprising, shocking ways, which sometimes are necessary. So become friends with the ego. Know that the ego is actually there as a tool, as a helper, as a guide for you to better understand yourself. It is not a villain. It is not something that needs to be destroyed or diminished. Like we always hear, like, kill the ego. Like, whoa, like, why are you killing an aspect of yourself? Like, yes, you need to shed some things and change perspectives, but like, you don't need to kill the ego, because you need the ego. And let's be real, the ego will never die. The ego will never die. And trying to kill the ego is actually another aspect of the ego. It is an aspect that is coming from fear, because one has received like these harsh lessons from having ego. So, in understanding this, we approach the ego with the energy in which we want to receive from the ego. So this is super important. You actually decide the way that your ego comes to you, expresses to you, and speaks to you. In first coming to this awareness of my ego was really intense. Like, it was really harsh. And I do observe that, like, I guess the avatar of Heather prefers to understand things and learn lessons like head on, and just like in a really blunt and intense way. Like, I like it to be like, it's like this, you're like this, you need to change this, do it now. I observe that, you know, I guess that kind of reflects in the experiences that I go through in my life too. That's okay, like, you know, we're going with the flow right now. So originally my ego would come to me like checking me like super hard, to where I was kind of like, whoa, thrown off balance. And obviously that was necessary at the time, but I observed what it would do whenever I would have these little ego deaths. That's what we call them, basically, like the ego coming to the forefront and displaying a situation, how you are, or how you communicate, or what you're expressing as, and how it's out of alignment and how you need to change it now. That's what we consider an ego death. I would experience these ego deaths and be like, whoa, kind of like winded for quite some time, where I would just have to really take a step back from life and from my experiences, and I would start checking all aspects of myself, where I would like experience these ego deaths and be like, whoa, if I didn't realize that about myself, and I didn't realize I was acting in that way, and it was literally like full of unharmonious ego, then I gotta check all aspects of myself. And again, that was necessary in those times. But once that happened a significant amount of times, I no longer needed to keep checking those other aspects of myself, where it was like I had built these solid foundations of self that actually were heart-centered and were coming from the heart space. So at that point, I was just like wasting my energy. So now I have had a very clear and open conversation with my ego and approached it in a gentle and charismatic way, where I have decided that the language in which I was going to communicate with my ego was going to be gentle and loving. And yes, this is possible. The ego is an aspect of yourself, so the ego can transform its ways to better connect with you. So now, instead of having like shocking understandings and realizations that throw me off balance from my ego, I actually approach my ego up front and I'm like, hey, like, why is it that I'm feeling this way? Like, is this not in alignment, or why did this occur? Whoa, okay, it was from unbalanced ego in that moment. Okay, all right. And then I can kind of like take a step back and I'm like, all right, time to recalibrate, reorganize a little bit, and move on from there. And in doing that, my ego has come to a space where it's like, okay, cool, now I have room to step into my space in which I can serve best. And this is really everything. Like, truly, the ego is your friend. The ego is actually your friend. I know we hear that all the time, like, the ego was not your friend. Yeah, the imbalanced and destructive ego is not your friend. But then again, the imbalanced and destructive anything is not your friend. But it also is something that is necessary for you to learn lessons. So like, hopefully you see what I'm getting at here is that like literally everything that occurs is divine. And the way that it occurs and is expressed and experienced is divine, because it's exactly how it needs to be in that moment. So yeah, don't hate on the ego, don't vilify the ego, just restructure it a little bit. Treat it like a child, because really that's what it is. It's coming from a place of fear. That's where the ego is derived from, is simply fear of not being good enough or being judged or failing. And that's valid. Those are real human emotions. And they are sometimes shocking and detrimental until you realize it's actually medicine. So yes, honor the ego, honor all aspects of yourself as a true divine aspect that is in a constant state of evolution. We are always evolving all aspects of ourselves, and the ego is one of them. So have humility. That is truly the purpose of dissecting our ego, is to become humble. And that is also how you stray away from the spiritual ego, where one feels entitled because they're enlightened, is to have humility and know that there is never a state of awareness that one hits and then is ultimately free forever. Like, no, we are on earth to continue to experience. In the higher realms, we've achieved the consciousness. Like, yeah, we obviously have our lessons up there too, but we are in that awareness. We came back here to continue to remember, to continue learning and acquiring new tools, and this is simply just one of the tools. So yes, thank you for tuning in. I am so grateful for you, and thank you for wanting to better yourself and understand yourself better. We truly need more people desiring to do this. Imagine if everyone was like, whoa, how do I check my own ego? Like, I don't know. Maybe send this to a few people who need to do that. And if you receive this video, like, it's all love, it's all love. Blessings.